The future of niche creator persona. The Creative Industries Policy Initiative was exported from Britain and embraced globally in the 1990s as the concept of the knowledge economy took hold alongside the increased access to the internet. The prevailing view of the creative industries is a top-down structure of wealth and employment dominated by notions of creativity that are shaped by intellectual property policy and ownership. Cunningham and Craig, in their ecological approach to social media entertainment, extend the established model of the creative industries to take into account market-driven issues of monetization, management, innovation, defined by platforms and social networking affordances. Although there is room in their model for critical cultural concerns, these concerns are framed around and attended to as a secondary order interest when compared to the organizing logic of investment, the market, labor, and the associated problems of exploitation and precariousness under media globalization. Missing, or at least understated in this approach, is the clear integration, recognition, and advocacy for policy-led protection for the contribution of fan and user content creation. Despite decades of attention to participatory cultures, collaborative producers, vernacular creativity, and transmedia audience participation, the logic of creative and cultural industries maintains a strict hierarchy in which fans and users are at the bottom. As Cunningham and Craig draw attention to, there is an increasingly powerful set of social media entertainers who have achieved mainstream success previously only found in the legacy media industries. Because of the way in which persona studies intersects with the trajectories of celebrity and fan studies, it adds nuance to the understanding of content creators who are not legacy media owners or at the level of full-time social media entertainers, but who are nonetheless industrialized by the platforms they use to organize and communicate. While it is efficient to point out the most popular and powerful SMEs, it is simultaneously easy to overlook the niche content creators with micro-celebrity status whose audiences and communities measure in the hundreds of thousands, or even in the hundreds, rather than the millions. The niche creator industries are the many and specialized pockets of interest that populate YouTube, Instagram, Facebook groups, websites, forums, and other social media platforms like Discord and WhatsApp. Niche creator personas often start as fans and audiences with expertise in specialized topics, who practice hobbies and build communities. They collaborate with other creators. They enable audiences through co-production and peer support, and they share knowledge in the ways that draw on intellectual property of others through the principles of fair use. The small scale of success of the niche means that the creator persona can build self-sustaining incomes through sites like YouTube, Twitch, and Patreon. And while some transition into SMEs, many do not, and many do not seek to. Persona Studies provides an analytical language and conceptual framework for considering the presentational media practices of niche creators, specifically in terms of diversity. In its commitment to the analysis of the agency involved in the negotiation between the individual and the collective, Persona Studies is useful for expanding the creative industry's approach to niche media. We can examine this in action by exploring the role of fan creator personas in what can be best described as the miniatures hobby, which, although it sounds small, pun intended, is a collection of a range of related industries with massive global appeal, interest, and, of course, revenue. The miniature niche includes the traditional model railway hobby, in which Australian Luke Towan and his Boulder Creek Railroad actually crosses over in the SME territory with around 1.3 million subscribers on YouTube. Perhaps a better example is Bentley House Minis, the online persona of Ara Bentley, whose YouTube channel has about 85,000 subscribers. And she became popular with her building of miniature dolls houses that recreate architecture from popular culture. She recently finished her 10-year project of building the Addams Family home, and has recently started on the house from the Tim Burton film Beetlejuice. Bentley's persona, it has 5 main facets spread across different micropublics on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Etsy, and her personal website. And of course, there's each of those has a distinct micropublic, but there's a lot of intercommunication between them. And participants may engage singly or across multiple locations. The miniatures hobby is dominated by the tabletop game industry, which features historical war games, most notably science fiction and fantasy-themed tabletop games owned by the UK-based Games Workshop. There are others, including Hasbro, Asmodee, Bandai, but outside of Asia, Games Workshop is probably the most recognised producer of plastic miniature kits and rules for the Warhammer games. So the tabletop game market has increased in sales and revenues by about 10% per year from 2010. It's expected to reach around 9.3 billion in annual sales in 2020. Did reach that in 2020, and should increase to around 12 billion US in global sales by 2023. Now that's approximately 1/10 the size of the video game industry, which is still an enormous profitable market. A creative industry's perspective alone might frame Games Workshop as a central actor. The company did exceptionally well during COVID, as lockdown meant people turned to puzzles and games and hobbies. And the BBC reported a surge in revenue to around 270 million in 2020. So Games Workshop is described by the Edison Group as a niche market, vertically integrated manufacturer, which exposes one of the core misconceptions about the growing financial success of GW, specifically the value of the hobby as a niche creative industry more generally. The reduction of the niche to a unified market or an economy resource primarily comprising consumers, without recognizing and crediting the fan creator personas who contribute millions of dollars worth of free advertising, marketing, and community building via Patreon, via YouTube, via Twitch, via Instagram, via Facebook, and so on. These are the real economic resource that Games Workshop doesn't even have to pay for. Games Workshop is a notoriously out-of-touch company with about 4-decade history of predatory marketing, pricing, and intellectual property management, and a reputation for catering exclusively to affluent white males. Without the work of fan creators, the company would simply not be as successful as it currently is, and GW has been actively incorporating fan creator personas into its unofficial marketing operations. Most recently through non-disclosure agreements and free provisions of a product that help result in fan content hype cycles. Perhaps more importantly, however, is that the role that fan personas have been playing in diversifying and making the hobby more accessible across a range of social media and streaming media platforms. People like Dana Boyd, Lila Mev, Kirsty Jean, Shoshi Bauer, on all different platforms from YouTube to Instagram to Twitch, have led the way, largely through a focus on painting as opposed to the wargaming side of the hobby. However, there are women fan personas in that side of the world as well, including Erin Bradfoot, Lady Wargaming, and Tanya Gates, the War Mistress, as well as new couples style content, which is quite interesting, including Snipe and Wib in 40k and the Partners at War in Age of Sigmar. So on June 5, 2020, the Warcom team, the official Twitter persona for Warhammer community team, shared a black and white text image titled Warhammer for Everyone that set out a zero tolerance policy for prejudice, hate and abuse and discrimination. This was an important public announcement, but it was really following 2 events. One, the death of George Floyd, and a statement on Instagram issued by Omegon Edge, Josh Mallet, in which he described being ostracized at an official Games Workshop event, being singled out for his minority status, and being subjected to covert and overt racist comments. The interaction between niche creator personas and their micropublics means that they are an important cultural locus for confronting issues of structural inequality, discrimination, and inclusion. So, the future of the niche creative industries depends on increased protection for such fan creators who are willing to represent their hobby, represent their interests, but also speak out for a diverse range of audiences. To use the futurological prediction model of Wendell Bell, we can think about the probable, the preferable, and the possible future of fan creator labor. The probable is that we're likely to see a period in which streaming and social media platforms and intellectual property rights holders continue to exploit the freely provided labor of fans, experts, and hobbyists. Those content creators looking to build a stable income for themselves are highly reliant on the terms of service of platforms that are often obscure, subject to a high rate of change, broad interpretation, and they're left without recourse or ability to appeal the decisions. And they need protecting, particularly under creative industries policy. The preferable future is one in which intellectual property rights holders continue to support a diverse range of fan voices and support initiatives like the collective persona No More Damsels, which was a really interesting community organisation set up in early 2020 to improve the gender balance of the London RPG and wargaming scene. The possible future is one in which the creative industry's policy initiatives seek real legislative changes to protect the rights of fan creators under copyright law, under national government provisions that other creative industries enjoy, especially the traditional legacy media industries. Thanks very much for watching.